ever have that feeling,
Yeah.
where you're in a situation, maybe a market, maybe a negotiation, and it feels like, well, for you to win, someone else has to lose.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling,
Hmm.
it really hits right at the core of what we're looking at today, this whole idea of zero-sum markets.
Zero sum.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, fundamentally. Whatever one person gains, another person loses the exact same amount. The net change is just zero.
Okay. And the material you sent over, it digs into this using game theory, which is fascinating stuff.
It is.
So I guess our mission here is to kind of unpack the key bits from game theory that can help us, understand these zero-sum worlds a bit better. Maybe even find a smarter way through them.
Exactly. And early game theory, it really focused a lot on these zero-sum games. The big question was always, like, what's the absolute best strategy? The optimal move?
Which sounds simple, doesn't it? Just figure out how to be smarter than the other person and, win.
Well, yeah, it sounds simple.
Sure.
But here's the catch. That works okay if your opponent isn't, well, thinking too hard. But what if they're really sharp? Like, think about professional traders in financial markets.
Yeah.
Trying to consistently outsmart them just by being clever, that's a tough game. Probably not going to work long term.
Right, like trying to pull a fast one on an expert who's basically seen every trick imaginable.
Yeah.
So if just trying to outthink them isn't the way, what's the alternative?
So that kind of leads us naturally to this idea of a mixed strategy. You see this talked about in trading circles, and it's rooted in game theory too.
Mixed strategy. Okay.
The basic idea is sometimes you need to be unpredictable. Deliberately throw in a move that seems counterintuitive now and then.
Okay. To keep them guessing.
Exactly. Keep the opponent off balance. Think of like a poker player occasionally bluffing or maybe betting strongly with a weaker hand than usual. It stops them from getting a perfect read on you.
Okay. That makes sense. So being unpredictable is actually part of the strategy itself. It makes you harder to exploit, I guess.
Yeah.
But is there something even more fundamental, like a core principle for dealing with these really sophisticated opponents in zero-sum games?
Yes, absolutely. And this is where the MiniMax strategy comes in. It's a really key concept.
MiniMax, okay.
In these tough zero-sum situations against smart players, the most robust approach isn't necessarily chasing the biggest win you can imagine. It's about something else. It's about minimizing your maximum possible loss.
Okay, hold on. Minimize your maximum loss. That sounds quite defensive or cautious.
It is, and that's the point. The thinking goes like this. First, you figure out, what's the absolute worst outcome my opponent could force on me? What's their most damaging move against me?
The worst case scenario.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Then, once you've identified that worst case, you ask, okay, what's the best strategy I can play, assuming they're going to try and inflict that worst case on me?
So you're not predicting what they will do necessarily,
Not exactly.
but you're preparing for the worst thing they could possibly do.
You got it. And the power of this, as game theory shows, is that if you consistently play your best strategy against their potential worst move, well, you effectively put a floor under your potential losses.
Okay. So it provides a kind of safety net.
A safety net, exactly. No matter how brilliant or ruthless your opponent is, you've structured your approach to handle their most potent attack.
Wow. That's a big shift in thinking, isn't it? Away from just pure offense or trying to guess their moves towards resilience.
It really is.
And I'm guessing this isn't just for finance geeks or poker players, right? This MiniMax idea.
Not at all. Think about it. Any situation where you're competing or negotiating where there's a real chance things could go badly,
Yeah.
this applies.
Like a salary negotiation.
Or
A business deal.
absolutely. Asking yourself, what's the worst outcome here, and how do I best protect myself against that specific outcome? That MiniMax thinking, it forces you to confront the downsides. So for you listening, consider where in your world this worst-case scenario focus might actually lead to a stronger position.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How often we might chase the best possible result without really guarding against the worst. This feels like a very grounding strategy.
It is. So if there's one key takeaway from this game theory deep dive for zero-sum situations, it's probably this. When you're up against skilled opponents and it's win-lose, focusing on minimizing your maximum potential loss, using that MiniMax approach, is often your most solid, most resilient path.
It's fascinating that by deliberately focusing on what could go wrong, you paradoxically end up making better, more robust choices. Definitely gives you something to mull over. How can thinking about the downside actually make your decisions stronger?